We had a record number of companies lost in the construction game in 2025. People just don't pay, and they've got away with it for decades. A lot of people are saying, hey, this is not acceptable. And I'm one of those people saying, hey, this is not acceptable. The construction doesn't stop. The material orders don't stop. The problems on site don't stop. The additional variations don't stop. Effective systems and processes is what's important. They don't have to be a fancy piece of software. It could just be something simple, whatever works for you. I've seen it so many times. A new system comes in and no one's spoken to the people that are supposed to be doing it. If you don't have a system or a process in place, you are so commercially exposed. It's unbelievable.
Welcome to Taking the Con Out of Construction, the straight-talking show that's changing the industry, one episode at a time. Small mistakes can cost big money, and even more in time. But a small investment in listening to this episode could help you avoid disputes, delays, and costly pitfalls, while giving you the know-how to stop problems before they start. Let's turn complexity into clarity and take the con out of construction.
Welcome back to Taking the Con Out of Construction. In this episode, we're tackling one of the most underestimated and most expensive issues in the construction industry, the lack of proper systems and processes. When businesses rely on memory, habit, or the way we've always done it, small cracks quickly turn into big problems. Michelle, you've seen firsthand how chaos creeps in when systems are missing or ignored. Can you talk us through why processes matter so much and what really happens when businesses try to run without them?
Systems and processes is a word that I hear all the time, and lots of people talk about systems and processes, but they don't always understand what they are, and they also don't understand how to implement them. It wasn't until about 4 or 5 years ago that I realised that my skill set was quite different, because I'm able to implement systems and processes. Whereas I've worked in a number of companies and someone's written a system or they've written a process and there's a huge document. But the thing is, in construction, and I'm sure this is the same in other industries, but as you know, I only really know construction, people just don't read them. There's people that will go and get something from IKEA and they won't even open the box until they've read the instructions and they've got a full plan and everything set out and they set it all nicely. There's people that just go at it and don't even know where the instructions are. In the construction industry, most people are the latter. And that's why we have toolbox talks, because you can send out emails, they don't open them. You can give them leaflets, they don't open them. The only way of getting through to anyone in construction is sitting them in front of you and telling them and talking to them. Because of that, you can have all these company policies and you can have all these processes that you're supposed to follow, but majority of the time, people haven't read them. Okay, you will get some project managers, well, definitely QSs there will, but generally people don't quite understand. Why this is important is because primarily the JCT contract. What I've found in the past 18 months or so working with various clients is the JCT contract is to some extent being weaponized, and it shouldn't be weaponized, but we've had a change in legislation and we now have an adjudication system, which is a low value adjudication. And there's lots of companies that are now getting in trouble because of these adjudications. And what a low value adjudication is if it's a simple thing, and generally what I'm seeing the most of is I've issued an application for payment. You have not issued me with either a certificate for payment or a pay less notice, and you haven't paid me by whatever the date is in the contract. Therefore, I'm entitled to the money that I applied for. And that is a JCT standard term. We had a record number of companies lost in the construction game in 2025. And I have a inkling, and not that I've done my research, this is just my opinion, that a lot of that is potentially due to adjudications on the fact that people haven't been issuing a pay less notice, because people have just been doing it the same way for years and years and years. And there's a number of reasons for that. Partially, main contractors are renowned for not paying on time, and a lot of subcontractors have had enough of that, and rightly so. And rather than just waiting to be paid, they'll claim the money from the fund or the client. In construction, and how people don't look at their costs or understand their costs properly, and people just don't pay, and they've got away with it for decades. A lot of people are saying, hey, this is not acceptable. And I'm one of those people saying, hey, this is not acceptable. So what happens if you haven't issued the pay less notice? Then you'll get an adjudication. But yes, you have to pay that money. But not only do you have to pay that money, you also have to pay the adjudication fees, which is about £3,000 or £4,000. Now, that doesn't seem a lot in the scheme of things. But if you've got 10 of those because you don't have a system or a process in place to make sure that you're sending this information out, you could get 10 of them a month. That's £30,000. That's going to hit anybody. This is part of what's happening. We've also had a lot of volatility in cost of living, cost of diesel, cost of materials. We had the Ukraine, we've had COVID. We've had a rough few years, and it has affected the industry, and people are struggling, and it's very competitive out there. But also with this low value adjudication system, there's a lot of people that are then putting in applications that are high, knowing full well that they haven't done those works, knowing full well whoever they're applying to is unlikely to send them a pay less notice, and then adjudicating for money that they're not entitled to. So that's a con side of it. But if you don't have a system or a process in place to deal with it, you are so commercially exposed. It's unbelievable. It doesn't necessarily have to be some fancy software. There is great software out there now, and it depends on the size of your business, and it depends on what funds you have available, and ultimately who you've got working for you. I used to have a system decades ago, and I would put in my calendar set date. So once I had a contract, I would issue my contracts, and all the guys that I would get into contract, I would create a schedule, and this is the application for payment due date. This is where the application needs to be sent. This is when it needs to be received. This is when I need to do this. This is when I need to send my payless notices on my applications for payment. And this is when the due dates are. And I'd create a spreadsheet to cover that. And then what I would do is I would put all those dates in my calendar, and I'd probably put them in 2 or 3 times, because ultimately, as anyone in construction knows, you can have a plan day and that can go out the window at 7 o'clock in the morning. So I would always aim to get my certificates out probably a week before, and then within that week I would get them done. And I'd also manage to make sure that when I'm entering into contracts, I didn't have all the same project all on the same day. I mean, why companies have it so that all their payments come out at the end of the month, their subcontractors, their everything, it's just carnage. You've got the power to make sure that you're dealing with one project one week, then the next second week of the month is that project. And it's just so much easier to manage. But that is a process, that is a system. Whether it's an Excel spreadsheet, whether you're using your Outlook and it's reminders, whether you have a calendar and you write it on a calendar, that it doesn't have to be fancy software. There is software out there, lots of it, but that's where you need to figure things out. And in all honesty, these days, you can upload all your contracts into AI, and AI will issue you with a spreadsheet or a calendar or a document that says, right, you need to do this, 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 and this, and it can work it out for you. And there is a place for AI in construction. I don't think it's going to replace anyone because of the way that the construction industry works, but it's definitely going to help us out. I'm changing the way that I'm working because I know that a lot of the QS roles and responsibilities can be replaced by AI. So I'm moving my business into the areas that AI cannot take over, because that's what I think we need to do. But there are ways of using AI to help you with certain things. You can get AI to have a look at your contract. Now, I would always double check. So, for example, this is a system that I use. If I've got to write a contractual letter for one of my clients, and especially if it's got pages and pages of amendments, often I will upload that contract into AI, and I'm like, right, find me the clause that mentions this, this, this. Now, this document could be 120 pages. AI will come up with a load of things, and it's either spot on the money or totally wrong. But generally, what it will do is direct me to the page or thereabouts of where that clause might be, which I wouldn't then take what AI said and write it in my letter, not in a million years. But what I will do is go and have a look at that clause and that page. And at least if I know I'm looking for clause 75.9, instead of scanning through 120 pages, it's a lot easier when I know what the clause number is, especially with the amendments. JCT isn't standardized anymore, even with the new ones, because solicitors love to amend it so much. But that is a process that saves me, could be 20, 30 minutes, maybe longer, to find that information. There's some software that I'm talking to some developers with at the moment that basically creates a CVR. It's really, really good software, and I'm testing it with them and hopefully approving it, because CVRs are essential, and that's a cost value reconciliation, because ultimately you need to have processes in place, but you need to have the right information. And I've used Excel spreadsheets, very clever Excel spreadsheets where you upload the information, but it's a system. It was a document originally that somebody else wrote, and then I've adapted it and improved it from that and created something slightly different. And what I've done is created something that I can upload information that comes out of my system and out of an accounting software, and then you can upload it and it separates it into each job in all different places and allocates it properly. But that's because I know where the cost should be. And some of the many issues that we've had with people doing variations, they don't have a system in place to say, right, this is a variation, and a tick list as such. Like, it could just be a piece of paper in a file and go, right, you're doing a variation. Does this have a time element? Is this going to extend a program? Are there prelims involved? Are there this? Are there that? this is what I'm talking about, systems and processes. It's not necessarily software. It can be software, but it's about making sure that your team are trained. One of the reasons that I originally set up H2 Construction was because I realized that the level of experience out there and the quality of QSs is pretty poor. And I then appreciated, which as most teenagers don't appreciate, I didn't appreciate the education I had as a teenager working for my dad's main contracting business. I didn't appreciate what I had learned and my standards. I didn't realize how high my standards were until I saw other people's standards. So I set up H2 with the intention that I was going to create a company where I took college leavers, apprenticeships of some sort that were doing quantity surveying degrees, and actually train them properly in my practice and create a professional style practice with main contracting experience and ethics. So it was a hybrid of both services, and that's what I set up H2 to be. The universe had a different plan and my business has gone in a very different direction, but it is still something that I will do eventually. But ultimately, there's other things that I need to do to change the industry. I'm doing this podcast and I have a specialty in turning around chaotic businesses and saving projects. And I've been called the guardian angel of construction before, and I know why, because I do come in and here she comes, save the day. And that's my skill set. But ultimately, people don't understand how to have systems and processes. And whether it was because I went to private school or the different degrees I've done, or the fact I've had twins, or I've grown a business being a single parent, or maybe it's the fact that I've got ADHD, I'm really, really good at systems and processes. The human element of construction isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Yes, as I said, AI has an impact, but the human element is there. And humans, when you've got the human element, that means mistakes. And it's chaotic, especially as a QS. It's chaotic because you can have 5 projects with an issue all at the same time. If you've got a company that's got cash flow issues, the chances are you're going to try and order materials, but all your accounts are going to be on stock. There's a high chance that some of your subcontractors are going to not be playing ball if you haven't paid them. And it happens all the time. Like the impact on the QS, okay, I'm biased, I'm not going to deny that. But I do find that QSs are the gel that hold everything together, because ultimately they're running the contract. So you have to work with the project managers, they're working with the site team, they're getting the money from the client. They're also involved with designers, they're involved in every aspect of the build. So we do often end up being a bit of the glue. And there's never enough hours in the day, but also efficiency, because there is no planning your work, because you don't know when you take on a project how many variations. There's always variations, but some are ridiculous. Some are daily, like some totally change what you're building. I've had some final accounts where the variation account is ended up being more than the original contract, and that's quite common. That's not a rarity. So if all of a sudden you've got a contract that's £1 million and you've got that time allocation, no one goes, well, actually your contract's at 2.5 million, so we're going to take another job off you. No, you're just expected to do it with everything else. You've got that human element. And then if your systems aren't set in place, that you end up doing everybody's certificates for payment in a week, that could be 20 or 30 different contractors that you're dealing with all in 1 week. But the construction doesn't stop. The material orders don't stop. The problems on site don't stop. The additional variations don't stop. There are many, many times that I've been working till midnight, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. If I had £1 for every time that someone would go, God, you were up early. My clients are so used to getting emails from me at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't do it so much now because obviously my life is different. But back in the day when I was running big projects or the commercial director for construction companies or main contractors or developers, very common. I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and think of all the things that I hadn't done the day before, and people would be getting emails and people would laugh and joke about it. I mean, no one ever questioned whether I was working when I was at home or not, because you might not get an email throughout the day because I've been here and everywhere, but guarantee you've got 30 that you copied in at 2 o'clock in the morning. And no one's ever questioned my work ethic because my emails are going 24/7. My executive assistant will phone me up and go, you've had no emails in for the last 3 hours. You need to make sure there's not something wrong, because it just doesn't happen for me not to have 100 emails a day or more. But again, I have a system and Natalie's part of my system. And without Natalie, I would miss so much. But there is so much software out there, and the software is getting smarter and smarter and smarter. But don't be fearful of it. It's not going to take over. The point is not to take over and replace you. The point is to make you superhuman to some extent, because you've got this backup system that supports you to make you more efficient. And that's what technology is about, what are we going to be improving in 2026. I mean, have a look back at the 90s when people didn't even think emails would kick off. Before Google, people didn't even know what Facebook was. We have changed so much and people are scared of moving forward, but ultimately things are happening faster and they're happening quicker and the industry is changing. And even though the construction industry is probably 10 years behind the rest of the world and everything else, it's going to catch up quick and it's not going to be long before there is a lot of tech involved. But it's about support. And it's about making you more efficient, getting fractional. Fractional has become a massive thing. And yes, I've been doing fractional work for 15 years. I've been doing freelance work and it's similar. And sometimes I'm all in on one client and there's others that I might have 2 or 3 that I'm working on a fractional basis. Having fractional directors is absolutely brilliant for SMEs because you get the C-suite experience level for a fraction of the price because they're only working for you 1 day a week or 2 days a month, and the quality of the type of people that you have out there. And that could be HR, commercial, tech, operations. And if you're an SME and you are struggling, there are experts out there like myself that you can employ with the cost of a junior QS. In fact, it's probably cheaper than what a junior QS covers this day. You could get someone that actually sets that wheels in motion. And it doesn't have to be a long-term contract either. Once your systems and processes are set up and implemented, that's what's really important. You need to find someone that can implement your systems and processes and also can design your systems and processes to suit your business and the people in it. So when I go into a business, for example, because I've got experience of working in so many different businesses, there's many different processes out there, but more importantly, there's many different people out there. A system and process that's going to work for one company won't necessarily work for another. And you'll get a lot of consultants and a lot of people that will come in and they will try to fit you to a model that's worked before. Now, unless you've got the same archetypes or type of people, the same leadership, a lot of the same variables, that system is not necessarily going to work. And also that system might work with, say, Sage, for example. But if you've got people working on Sage or then you've got someone else using Xero, they're very different systems. And when you change one of those processes or one of those systems that are already in place, it's just not going to operate the same. I've explained before about how some businesses had 5 different QSs and they were all expected to take one project on from start, estimating to completion. And that didn't work within that business. That is a perfect example. That is a system. So when I'm talking about systems and processes, again, I'm not just talking about technology. They had a system that didn't work for them, but actually they didn't have one system that worked necessarily because you had one guy that wanted to take the project all the way through and he did that so well, he carried on doing that and he stayed doing that and he took it and he took the job and he tendered it. And if he won it, then he took it all the way through to final account. And that worked amazing with him. And some people love to do that. Don't change that. If that's what they love doing, do not change that. So what we did with the other 4 QSs is we split them up. So one did estimating and the tendering, but they also did the variations so that everything was priced properly. One did all the pre-construction, getting people doing the pre-tender meetings and making sure that the contract and everything was agreed and it was done. He would then package it up for the next person to deliver. And then you had someone that agreed all the final accounts and did with disputes. And it was so incredible and how they changed their productivity just by splitting up the way they work. It's the same with all businesses. You'll come in and there will be somebody, very often I'll find someone that's, I don't know, was a bit of a junior or been in the business for years and just become part of the furniture. And when a person becomes part of the furniture and they're loyal, you don't necessarily understand their expectations. And sometimes I see something in that person that's been overlooked. Actually, do you know what? Let's move this person. In some of my experience, it's been someone that just answered the phones and is general admin, but was so incredible at motivating people and talking, was so passionate about the business. I got her into telesales and she was insane. Not many people do telesales in construction, but she was brilliant. And she was a real asset and she ended up doing business development. And she started as, I don't know, I think she was 16 or something when she joined him. By the time I met her, she'd been with the company 2 or 3 years. She knew it inside out. She was brilliant. There's other people that I've gone in and I've seen that they're a receptionist or an admin. And that's quite common, especially with women. And they don't think that there's an opportunity because it's construction and they don't see many women leading in construction. And I'm like, you need to get her into project management because look how she's managing this team. They all love her. They respect her. They listen to her. She's good at understanding them. Get her managing your team. And then you help and support that person and train them. And some of the whole systems and processes point is about making sure that your team are trained properly as well. They know what they're doing. You're giving them the right tools to do what they need to do. Now, some people want to work on Excel and they're whizzes on Excel. And my brother loves an Excel spreadsheet. He's a financial advisor. He does mortgages and he's incredible at what he does. But he will have a spreadsheet that he can tell you how behind he is because of the work he needs to do. And somehow he's got this spreadsheet that figures out how much time he needs to do X, Y, Z. And he'll say to his wife, right, I need to work Saturday and Sunday or this extra hours this week to catch up. Like, it's insane what he does with his spreadsheet. I'm pretty good with spreadsheets, but that's just beyond me because I don't understand his business. Some people love that. And just because I'm saying systems and processes need to be in place, they don't have to be a fancy piece of software. It could just be something simple, but you have to have systems and processes, and it's whatever works for you. And that's why a lot of people say to me, do I not have standard pricing when I'm going to work with a company? No, because I don't know what you've got. And that's also part of construction alchemy and where the alchemy comes from, because ultimately I'll go into a business and I will take what they have. I'm like, right, this is great. This is working great. This is amazing. She's great. He's great. This is great. This doesn't quite work and needs tweaking. You've got gaps here. You've got gaps there. You're hemorrhaging money here. You're hemorrhaging money there. We're going to tighten this up. This is a process that you're exposed. This is where you're exposed here. Here are your risks. And basically I take everything that the business has got. We get rid of what isn't working for them. Or it may be the fact you've got someone that is in a position that isn't trained enough and doesn't have the support or the systems and processes in place. So we adapt that. Or sometimes they're not working in an efficient way because someone's showing them to do something and it just doesn't work with the way their brain works. And the alchemy part of what I do is like, okay, fine, let's just tweak this, add a bit of this. And it's like a recipe. How many times you've got a recipe offline and then you've added a different spice or you've added something different and make it your own? That's what I do with businesses. And that's what people need to do with their own businesses and not think, well, there is no such thing as a set system in construction. I've not found one. Even when I've worked for two companies that do the same thing, I've worked for companies that do fire smoke alarm systems, a number of them, or security systems or things like that within the MEP environment. And not one of them has the same process. Some of them even use the same software, but how they have their processes and how they run their business is totally different. I highly recommend getting advice because, as I've mentioned so many times before, most people running construction businesses, regardless of whether they're contractor, developer, whatever, most of them are entrepreneurs. They're incredible at getting work. And the thing with the industry, I meet so many people that are absolutely incredible at getting work, but they're not so good at business. So if you don't have really good business acumen, if you haven't got the right people, you don't understand your profit and loss, you don't understand the difference between what your balance sheet is, you don't understand marketing, or if you don't understand the processes available, then you need to get someone in to explain it to you. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to employ someone 200 grand a year and have them a full-time job. It might not be full-time. It might be 6 months. It could be 12 months. It could be 2 years. It could be 5-minute conversation. It could be a power hour or something like that. But if you don't know what you're doing and things are moving and they were moving faster, this is going to get bigger. And either you adapt and get your business functioning better and getting your systems and process to work with your business to improve your efficiency, to protect you, to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, make sure you're making decisions on the right information, because you cannot make effective decisions on wrong information. The amount of people that come to me and say, oh, it's all my fault, no. I've met many, many construction leaders that have made the wrong decisions because they were based on the wrong information. And once you give them the information that's accurate, the decisions they make are totally different. So the benefits of having systems and processes is not just to stop you getting someone adjudicating, because that is a risk. It's about improving efficiency and saving you time. And as we know in construction, time is money. If you've got the right systems and processes in place, how it will benefit your business is, first of all, when it comes to applications for payment, you've got a system in place that your accounts team are aware of the maximum liability that they've got coming, gives them the ability to help with cash flow if you haven't got a cash flow. If you've got something that produces a cash flow forecast for you, amazing. But if you don't, and you're a smaller business, if you have a system that's like, right, these are the applications for payment that are coming in, and they're notified as soon as they come in, whether it's uploaded on a piece of software or uploaded in a folder, whatever it may be, if you can advise your accounts department, as soon as they come in, they know what their maximum liability is. And yes, not all applications for payment are certified in full. There might be reductions, but at least you give them the worst case scenario. Pretty sure anyone in the accounts department that's listening to this or in this country is never going to complain about having excess cash if you're saying this is our maximum liability, because things always happen. That's one way. It's going to save you time and money. But also it reduces conflict, because the amount of time that I've gone into our businesses and the surveying department, especially the project management department and the accounts, are at loggerheads, because the project manager is focused on delivering the project, and that some of them are incredible and are also cost conscious, but a lot of them aren't. QSs are mainly focused on the cost. And then the accounts department have just got to find the money. But people expect the accounts department to find the money when no one's told them about the money. And sometimes you might have done an application of payment to the client or drawed a fund down or whatever it may be where you're getting your money from. And then all of a sudden things are missed. So you said you need £1 million this month, and next minute they've got to find 1.2. So if you're getting systems and processes, people are happier. But if you get your team involved and you're designing these processes to suit them in the way that they work, it's also a motivation. People come together and then they start understanding what other people are doing, and people then are on board when they feel that a system and process is put in place to support them, but actually it impacts them in a positive place. And don't get me wrong, many times I'm like, right, I'm going to give you an opportunity to roll your eyes at me, but we're going to put a system in or a process in. And a lot of people don't like change, and they'll look at me and I'm like, right, come on, roll your eyes out. Let's have a little eye roll, whatever, huff and puff. Just bear with me and get someone on a good foot anyway. And they sort of laugh at me because they realize I'm a little bit nuts by this point. And we have a laugh and a joke, and I was like, this is what the system we're going to put it in, and this is how it's going to work for you, and this is what's going to happen, and this is going to be output, and this is how it's going to affect your life. And actually, if you're saving people time from mundane tasks, if there's a repetitive task, you can get AI to do it, then that's amazing, because there's definitely a place for that. Or if you've got repetitive tasks, you've got someone that is just love doing the same thing and they're brilliant at it, and they just repeat, and you give that to that kind of person. Or people know what they're doing, or people set a day and go, right, today isn't really going to be a boring day. It's a bit I don't like doing, but it's part of the system. They do all of that in one day, whatever it may be. You save time, you save money. People are more motivated. They're less stressed because time is of the essence. And that's something that we just can't get more of. So effective systems and processes is what's important. But if you've got a system or a process in place, you need to make sure that it's working and that your team are happy with it. Because it's fine, yeah, we're going to implement this system. And I've seen it so many times. A new system comes in and it's not on board, and no one's spoken to the people that are supposed to be doing it. No one actually trains them how to implement it. And someone's come in and they've got a system that either they like or they're selling, and they don't actually give a monkey's whether it's going to work for you or not. Once you've bought it, do they care if it actually works? No, because they've already got their money. So you always need to get your team involved. And I'm a firm believer of dealing with the experts. If I'm on a site and I'm like, right, we need to do this and we need to do that, I will speak to the trades that are physically going to be doing that because they know it. And yeah, don't get me wrong, there's some trades that will try and blag you and I'm like, well, it can't be done. No, that's not an option. It's got to be done, and help them think outside the box. But there is a place to understand that people doing it day in and day out have an expertise, and you need to value that. And by valuing that and incorporating them in the decision-making process and designing these systems and processes, one, it motivates them, but two, it's going to make you more efficient. You've got a legal responsibility. You've got compliance, which we haven't even really delved into, but there are some systems and processes you need in place to be compliant. And I'm not even talking about ISOs. If you want to get ISOs, then you're fully aware of you need to have systems and processes and paperwork in place to get compliance and to get ISOs and that kind of thing. Regulations are changing all the time, especially in construction, especially in relation to fire. So there's the legal side of things that you need systems and processes. You also need systems and processes on payment side of things, whether you're and contractual dates, so whether you're following the processes that are in your contract. Now, unless you understand your contract, and every contract is different, you need to make sure that you're setting up a system and process for that particular job in accordance with the terms of that contract, because that will save you time and money, and it's a legal responsibility. You'll also motivate your staff. You'll give them more time. You'll reduce stress. And actually, the right systems and processes in your business can not only reduce costs, even though some of them there is a financial burden to them because it could be subscription, whatever it may be, but you will in the long term reduce costs because you will increase the capacity of your team, you will reduce stress, you will improve efficiency, you improve motivation, and you're obviously getting your company at less risk and more commercially protected. If it's done properly, it's a game changer for any business. And also, once you get those right systems and processes in place, it reduces chaos, improves efficiency, and gets you prepped for growth. Or if you've already grown, it gives you the point that you are then back in control of your business rather than your business running you.
Michelle, thank you for breaking that down so clearly. What really stands out is that systems and processes aren't about slowing people down. They're about removing friction, they free up time, reduce risk, and allow teams to focus on delivering good projects instead of constantly firefighting. Thank you again, Michelle.
Welcome.
If you found value in today's episode, hit subscribe so you never miss a new release, and share it with someone in the industry who needs to hear it. To learn more, access resources, or find out how Michelle Carr and Construction Alchemy can help you protect your projects, solve problems, and boost your profits, visit constructionalchemy.co.uk. Together, we can change the industry, one project, one company, and one episode at a time. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are based on the personal experiences of Michelle Carr and her guests. They are for general information only and should not be relied upon as professional or legal advice. Always seek your own independent advice before making decisions. Neither Michelle Carr nor Construction Alchemy accepts liability for any loss, damage, or consequences arising from actions taken based on this podcast. Thank you for listening.